Good morning, everyone. What's up? What's up? Hope you guys are doing well. Today is Wednesday, May the 6th. As you can see here in the overnight session, wow, market's going absolutely crazy. Semis pushing nicely towards the upside. AMD up about an 18% here in the after hours. So this is really what's pushing up basically everything here in the markets. AMD up 17% with, of course, earnings pushing up MU, Intel, SNDK, a bunch of the semiconductors here, which we'll talk about coming into market open. But that's really the main culprit. We had some earnings. We kind of talked about really AMD being the big earnings. One of the big names that do have earnings, we had SMCI, that one had earnings as well, and a bunch of other semis really pushing the market up nicely here. So we'll talk about that here in a second. Before we do that, let me pull up the economic calendar. What's up, everyone? Good morning. What's up, Michael? Good morning, Victor. Let me pull this up. What's up, everyone? Good morning, Martin. Good morning, Kelvin, B Roots. What's up, everyone? Good morning, Maria, Andy, Knight, Nina. What's up, Alejandro, Chris, Detecto. Good morning, Gerald, Lamit, Robert, Sam, John. Good morning, Deuce, Dippin. What's up, everyone? Hope you guys are doing well. Alrighty. Let me pull up the economic calendar, which we have. We do have some news in the pre-market as well. A little bit of a pullback here in a little bit of a pullback here in the markets. We recently just had some news. So SPY and Qs up very nicely. I'm not sure if the markets are pulling back just based off this or just pulling back just based off of just the higher time frames, and now we're kind of retracing back down in towards key levels. But regardless, the SPY and Qs is back at all-time highs. For the SPY, nice push up in towards our all-time highs yesterday. And now you can see in the after hours and pre-market, very nice gap towards the upside. Qs, another nice gap towards the upside. Nice push yesterday, and now you can see pretty big gap, of course, with AMD earnings pushing this towards the upside here. So overall markets are gapping up towards the highs. Primarily due to AMD, as I mentioned. As for the red folder news events that we have coming into market open, we do have the ADP non-farm enrollment. Not really expecting it to affect the market as much, but we'll keep an eye out on this one. This is going to be in about 6 minutes here. As for some more red folder news, in this case, it's an orange folder now. Unemployment claims, that's going to be at 8:30. Friday, average hourly earnings along with the non-farm enrollment change. And then we also have the unemployment here as well. Plus, we do have the prelim consumer sentiment that's going to be at 10 a.m. on Friday. So this is what we have for the red folder news and the economic calendar. As I mentioned, not really expecting any of these ones to affect the markets. The main thing that we do have is the ongoing war news plus the earnings that we do have in the markets. Yesterday, we had AMD reporting. Really one of the bigger catalysts towards the upside. SMCI was super nice as well. We had a couple other ones, some other semis. We had Light, we had NVTS, TEM, so a couple other semis in the markets. At least for today, something to keep an eye out for: ARM, APP. These are some of the big ones to keep an eye out for today, at least. And then tomorrow, IREN's been moving up nicely. CoreWeave, CRWV, something to keep an eye out for. AAIO, open, You can even keep an eye out on Coinbase, AFRM. So these are a couple big ones, but of course, the biggest one this week is the AMD, which we'll talk about here in a second. So with that being said, let's hop straight into the charts. There's a lot of things to go over, of course, with the markets gapping up here in the overnight session. So starting off with, of course, the weekly time frame. As you can see here, SPY, we talked about this bullish here on the weekly time frame above our previous all-time highs. For the SPY, bullish here as well. Every single dip so far being bought up. Higher lows have been made. If we go on to the hourly chart, now you can see we end up bouncing off this level very nicely. So this is the level that we had coming into this week. In this case, this was our 715. we mentioned yesterday, above our previous day highs, we can see a push up in towards our all-time highs. So we got above that 722. Next level, of course, is our 724, which of course is our all-time highs key level. And you can see a little bit of reaction coming to close. A little bit of reaction, and you can see once we broke above in the after hours, really solid push in the after hours and in the pre-market as well. So you can see SPY is gapping well above our previous day highs. We're well above our previous all-time highs here in the pre-market. So now coming to market open, we're going to have to base it off of intraday price action along with a couple levels that we have in the pre-market. What I'm going to have drawn out today is going to be our pre-market highs, 731. And of course, I'm going to mark out this level from pre-market as well, which is going to be our 729. So these levels, as I mentioned, are just from the pre-market, right? We don't have anything else to base it off of. Our previous day highs is quite far away. So we're going to have to use these levels, 729 along with our 731. Some of the scenarios that we're interested, if we do want to go long, right, we do have a pretty big gap in the market. So if you want to continue to see some strength, it's going to be above our 729 for continuation, or of course above our pre-market highs, 731 for continuation towards the upside, above your pre-market highs. So these are really the two long scenarios here for the SPY. The only way you're interested in shorts, if let's say the first kind of 5-minute candle either consolidates or maybe gets underneath that 729, potential gap fill reversal is in play here. But you're gonna have to mark out that opening range candle, break underneath that opening range candle, retest for a pushback towards the downside. So this is really the only short scenario. We are the higher the markets do go, right? Especially on the semiconductors in itself, MU gapping up about 3 days in a row here. We are getting to a point where it is fairly overextended, right? Especially whenever the markets have a big news event like this, right? You kind of have a potential kind of blow off the top move, right? Gaps up 3 days in a row. Right, usually that's setting up for a potential kind of parabolic short. So we do have to be cautious on something like MU and a couple of those tickers. But for SPY in specific, I'm still interested in looking for any sort of major dips that we do have to go long in the markets. But I am open to potentially playing both sides today just because of the big gap that we do have in the markets. So keep an eye on SPY 729 coming into market open. As for the ES, the key levels that we have marked out is similar thing here. What we have is our previous day highs along with our previous all-time highs. So for the ES, as you can see right here, once we end up breaking above our Monday's highs, nice push towards the upside, up and towards our last week's highs and this all-time highs. A little bit of reaction. And then once we got above it, you can see nice break and retest here in the pre-market for continuation towards the upside. So the key levels that I have marked out on the ES coming into market open, it's going to mark out that pre-market highs. Other levels I'm going to have marked out here now as well. We can mark out this down close candle, which it's kind of coming back down into as we speak. But I'm going to mark out this down close candle here at 5 a.m. So coming into market open, as I mentioned, if we do want to see longs, hold above this 73.40 for continuation towards the upside. Another possible scenario above our pre-market highs for continuation as well. If we do want to see some downside in the markets, right, consolidation underneath our 73.40, potential room back down in towards that previous day highs, 7,300 here on the ES. So this is what we have for the SPY and Qs coming into market open. Let's go on to the QQQ here now as well. So as you can see here on the Qs, we also had some red folder news, as I mentioned, which was that ADP non-farm enrollment. As you can see, the numbers came in a bit lower than expected, 118, forecasted 109. There's a little bit of reaction here on the SPY and Qs, but not that much. We'll kind of talk about this here. But for the QQQ, as you can see right here, weekly time frame, very bullish. Every single weekly candle close so far has been fairly strong, well above our previous all-time highs key levels. As for the daily chart, similar thing, every single high or low is being bought up. Continuation towards the upside so far here on the Qs. Now you can see we're well above our previous day highs. So for the Qs here, key levels that we have marked out, is our previous day highs. You can see in the after hours in the pre-market, really solid push towards the upside, up about 1.6% here in the pre-market. Now the key levels that we're going to have marked out is going to be our pre-market highs. Other levels that we could have marked out here as well is going to be our after hours highs, which is our 688. So if we do want to see continuation coming into market open, right, maintain above our 688, hold for a pushback towards the upside. Another possible scenario is now going to be the trade up in towards our pre-market highs or above our pre-market highs for continuation. So these are the two long scenarios here for the for the Qs coming into market open here today. If we do want to see some downside, right underneath that 688, potential mean reversion back down in towards our previous day highs, along with that previous day close 683. So that's what we have on the Qs coming to market open here today. As for the NQ, you can see a bigger move here on the NQ, nice push towards the upside. Key levels that we can have marked out on this one. Let me just mark this out. Number one, I'm going to mark out our after hours highs. Sorry, let me just mark this out. So you can mark out that previous day highs. Other levels now we're going to have marked out is our pre-market highs. And in this case, our after hours highs, which is our 28,400. So these are the key levels coming into market open. This is our previous day highs, as I mentioned. Price is well farther away from our previous day highs. So we have to use our pre-market highs and our after hours highs in this case. If we do want to see some upside, maintain above our 28,400 for a continuation back up and towards our pre-market highs. Another possible scenario above our pre-market highs for a pushback towards the upside here as well. If we are interested in downside, as I talked about, right, since we do have a big gap in the markets, we end up having a nice gap up, right? Potential gap fill reversal now is in play here underneath that 28,400 for potential move back towards the downside, right? Higher time frame is still very much intact towards the upside, so we haven't really been looking for any shorts whatsoever. But as I mentioned, we are getting to a point where we have a couple gap ups in a row. You do have to be cautious whenever we have, right, 2 to 3 gap ups. That's usually a sign that the market is getting pretty overextended. There's only been one gap up so far on the SPY and the Qs, but we have a couple gap ups on MU, which we'll talk about here in a second. But yeah, this is what we have for the major indices coming to market open here. If you look at the SMH, this is the one that's been leading the markets towards the upside. So I've been talking about this one for a while here. As you can see, if we're looking at this from a weekly perspective, SMH basically off these April lows. Look how big of a move we've had on these semiconductors themselves, right? Basically from 360 all the way back up and towards 540. And we're continuing to push higher. Every single dip so far is being bought up. We haven't had too many bearish candles. You can see every single dip basically being bought up here on the daily chart. So nice continuation here on the SMH, well above our previous all-time highs, as you can see here. Key levels that we have marked out on the SMH now is our 512, which happens to be our Monday's highs. And as you can see right here, Tuesday, nice break above, continuation. And then, of course, with AMD earnings, nice push towards the upside. So key levels today, pre-market highs, which we're going to have marked out, 545. Other levels that we can have marked out here is going to be our after hours highs, 535. So coming into market open here, well above our previous day highs here on the SMH, up about 3.4%. If we do want to look for continuation today, above our 534 for a push towards the upside, or now above our pre-market highs for continuation here as well. If we want to see a shorting the semis has been very difficult, right? Very hard to find or try and time a top here, right? If you've been trying to short the semis after breaking out of our all-time highs level, really no shorting opportunities whatsoever. We've had maybe one short down in towards this gap fill, but as you can see here, it's been very difficult to short the semiconductors in itself. So far, another gap up here. As long as we maintain above key levels, in this case, every single high or low is being bought up. And if we're above our previous day highs, we're generally speaking going to maintain a bullish bias in the market if we're above our previous day highs. So for the SMH, keep an eye out on our after hours highs along with our pre-market highs, as you can see here. As for the IWM, this one is breaking out of our key levels. As you can see, what we have marked out is our 280 yesterday above our 280. Nice continuation towards the upside. And of course, with this break in the pre-market, this one's continuing towards the upside here as well. So the key levels that we're going to have marked out is going to be our previous day highs. Other levels is our pre-market highs. And we can also mark out our after hours highs, which is a lot farther away here as well. So for the IWM, don't really have too many levels to base it off of today. No down close candles. Previous day highs is a little bit farther away. Our after hours highs is probably our best level of support, which is all the way down in towards that 284. So today for the IWM, you're gonna have to use that opening range candle first 5 minutes. Break above that first 5-minute candle, potential push up in towards our pre-market highs. If we do break underneath and hold underneath, potential room down in towards our our after hours highs along with our previous day highs. So this is what we have on the major indices coming to market open. So as basically the game plan coming to today here, at least for the major indices, is you like to see it maintain above key levels for continuation. So as you can see here, we're well above our previous day highs along with our all-time highs here. As long as you can build higher lows, in this case for the Qs, I like to see it maintain above the 688 for continuation. For the SPY, preferably if we can maintain above this down close candle here, which is our candle that we created here at 5 a.m. continuation towards the upside. If we kind of consolidate just a little bit, break underneath, then we can potentially flip bearish, but we want to be cautious if it consolidates, right, breaks underneath and a fake out back towards the upside. So a lot of times, especially in this market, whenever the markets are bullish, any sort of breakdown usually is just a buying opportunity for continuation higher. There hasn't been any good shorting opportunities as of yet. We are coming very close to a potential good shorting opportunity, but as of now, we're just going to continue to look for longs towards the upside. That's what has been working. So we're just going to continue to do so. Okay, with that being said, if you guys do have any charts or any tickers here now, you guys can drop them in the chat. If you guys are enjoying those so far, appreciate if you guys drop a like and sub. If you guys haven't joined the free daily watch list, that of course is in the description below here as well. Okay, let's quickly go over some of the names that we have. Starting off with Tesla. Tesla slowly reclaiming back above this 380, as you can see on the higher time frames. We'd like to see a reversal on this one, but more consolidation than anything. That's why it's taking a little bit longer. But as for Tesla, still like this one on the hourly chart along with the daily time frame. It's just going to consolidate a little bit more, as I mentioned. It could even come back down in towards that 382 and still be bullish for continuation higher. At least for this week's price action, really not too much to talk about. Yesterday, nice break above our previous day highs. Nice previous day high retest. Nice retest above our 398. But once we broke back underneath, now we're consolidating a little bit more here on the higher time frame. So for Tesla, just be a little bit more patient. At least for the past 3 sessions, looks a little bit more like it's consolidating than anything. Nvidia is in a good spot. Right off our lows here, key level support, which is our 195 here on the higher time frame. So if you're interested in Nvidia, right, this is a low risk opportunity. Also the area that we broke from originally, and we end up having that push towards the upside. So we end up having that retest. Now what we'd like to see is a potential move back towards the upside here on the daily chart. So very low risk here on Nvidia right off a key level. If you're interested in for some upside here on Nvidia, there's 2 opportunities. We have your bounce play offer 196. As you can see, nice buyers are stepping in, or now you're going to be waiting for the reclaim back above 202. 2 scenarios, as I mentioned, reclaim back above 202 or the bounce play here offer 196 for continuation towards the upside. So keep an eye out on Nvidia. This is really the only semiconductor that has been lagging the markets. Compared to everything else, AMD up very nicely. A lot of the semis, a lot of the memory names have been pushing up nicely. Nvidia has been the one that's lagging behind. So if you are interested in Nvidia coming to market open, let's keep an eye out on our 202.50. Other levels that we could have marked out today is going to be that previous day highs, which is our 200. So we can keep an eye out on Nvidia. previous day high retest for continuation or above our 202.50. Or let's say if it fills a gap, you could be looking for the reversal off our previous day lows. Let's go on to AMD. This is the main one coming into today. If we're looking at this one on the weekly time frame, as you can see here, nice retest off these April lows. Once we broke above our all-time highs, really solid push towards the upside. Now another gap up. As you can see, AMD is going to have a major gap up here, up about, sorry, this one's going to be at 420. So very close to our higher time frame. Now we don't really have any more key levels. But for AMD, huge gap up in the markets. We're basically at 420 here. Huge daily gap. Now the key levels that we're going to have marked out. Number one, it's going to be our previous day highs. But as you can see, our previous day highs is fairly far away. We're going to have to base it off of intraday price action, along with the levels that we have in the pre-market. So this is our previous day highs 360. Obviously, we're not going to be using our 360 as a reference point today. But the key levels that we can have marked out is now going to be this after hours consolidation plus our pre-market levels. So I'm going to mark out that 430 along with that 410. These are the key levels that I'm going to have today. If we do want to see continuation on AMD, right, day one earnings play, it might be a little bit more tricky on AMD, but this is definitely in play here. It would be the dip and rip off our 410 for potential pushback towards the upside, or now we'd be waiting for the break above our pre-market highs for continuation. This one right here, the break above our pre-market highs, not interested in, just because the IV is going to be fairly elevated. If we do want to go long on AMD, especially day number one, we're going to have to see some sort of dip and then wait for a reclaim setup. The reclaim setup is usually the best setup after earnings, especially on day number one. Since the IV is going to be super elevated, we're up about 16% here in the pre-market. You want to see an IV flush. So let's say the 420 contracts or even the 430 contracts, you want to see a dip and then some sort of rip back towards the upside. So AMD, keep an eye out on your 410 bounce coming into market open here today. This one's still very much bullish here on the higher time frames. If you look at Apple, nice little bounce right off our key levels that we talked about yesterday. So this is our break and retest level, which is that 275. Nice buyer stepped in here. If you look at this on the daily chart as well, nice break and retest right off our key levels. So this is our 275 key level of resistance now turning into support. Nice break and retest right off that daily gap, right off our earnings key levels here as well. So nice buyer stepped in on Apple. Now you just like to see continuation up in towards our 288 here on the higher time frames. Other levels that we can keep an eye out for here as well is going to be that 280. So for Apple, really maintain above our Monday's highs for continuation, or now above our previous day highs for push up in towards our all-time highs. So this is what I have for Apple coming to market open here. Google, this one's continuing to push nicely towards the upside. Talked about that flat top break yesterday. You had that immediate retest, which was pretty solid right off that 282. Then we kind of pulled back, consolidated a little bit, and now we're having this nicer push in the after hours. Key levels that we can have marked out here is going to be that previous day highs. If you do want to see continuation here on Google, some buyers are stepping in here in the pre-market, but above your previous day highs, we want to see continuation higher. Another possible scenario above now your after hours highs for continuation higher here as well. So this is what you have on Google coming to market open here. As for Microsoft, this one's lagging behind. A little bit more consolidation after earnings. Not really too much to talk about on this name. As for Meta, similar thesis after this drop with earnings. Not really playable in the past couple of sessions. As for Amazon, this one's slowly grinding back towards the upside here. We are forming a flat top here on Amazon. So you can keep an eye on Amazon today for the potential break above our all-time highs retest for continuation. So as you can see, we have multiple touches here, about 3 touches on Amazon off this 275. If we can break above your 275, hold above your 275, we can see continuation towards the upside. As for Netflix, we actually showed a little bit more weakness yesterday. We talked about the break underneath this 90 key psych level. We do have room down in towards that full daily gap. So for Netflix here now, you like to see that push down in towards that 86 here on the higher time frame. So levels that you want to have marked out: 86.50, that's going to be your key level coming into market open here. If we can break underneath your 87.50, you can see move down and towards that full gap fill here on the higher time frames, which will be that 86.50. All right, so that's all the tech side that we do have. Really, as I mentioned, the main things that are moving the market here is AMD plus a lot of the semiconductors. Not too many other tech names, right? Tesla kind of lagging behind still on the daily chart. All these other names are either consolidating or slowly pushing back towards the upside. Google's nice, but you can see Microsoft, Meta lagging, Amazon's back at highs, but something like Netflix is dropping here as well. All the names that have been moving nicely have been the semiconductors. So, right, AMD in specific, and a bunch of these other ones, which we'll talk about: MU, SNDK, Intel, WDC, and the rest of the semis here. So, now with that being said, I'm going to head on to some other names here. If you guys do have any charts, as I mentioned, you guys can now drop them in the chat, or any tickers you'd like me to go over. If you guys are enjoying this so far, appreciate if you guys drop a like. If you guys haven't joined the free daily watch list, that of course is in the description below as well. Yeah, Shopify had earnings yesterday. Discord account got locked, unable to access live stream. Yeah, if you created a support ticket, someone from the team will take a look at it fairly soon. I've read that SNDK might consider a split at some point. Would totally make sense, and sure. Yeah, exactly. So SNDK and these ones have such a big move in the past few months. If we do have a split, you can see the contracts now are very expensive, right? MU is now around like $20-$30 a con, continuing to rise. SNDK is where MU was about a month ago. Now the contracts are essentially doubled. So they're going to be closer to $5,000 to $6,000 per contract, which is fairly expensive. Not that small account friendly as well. As for Palantir, so Palantir recently had earnings on Monday, dropped towards the downside. Now, as you can see here, not really too much to talk about on Palantir. Key levels that we have marked out is our 137. Other levels that we have is our 150. So rejection right down in towards a key level support. I would like to see this level be used as a potential bounce level for a pushback towards the upside. If we do break underneath our previous day lows, that is a signal for a potential bigger push lower here underneath that 134. AVGO, we talked about this one, looking pretty solid on the higher time frames. Potential all-time highs move on this one. Higher lows are being built, all-time highs in play. So nice push up on AVGO. Key levels that we have marked out now on this name is, of course, our all-time highs, or our previous all-time highs here, which is our 428. So AVGO, nice bounce off our 428 yesterday, nice continuation towards the upside. Key levels that we're going to have marked out today is going to be that pre-market highs. Other levels is going to be that previous day highs here. So a couple levels on AVGO coming to market open. If you do want to see some upside above our previous day highs, or now above our pre-market highs for continuation towards the upside. Let's go into MU. So MU, let's look at this one on the daily chart. As you can see right here, we have 3 gap ups so far in a row. We do have to be fairly cautious, right? Whenever we have 3 gap ups, you can see the markets are fairly overextended here. Ever since we broke above our all-time highs, we've had this nice trade consolidation, so no reason to short the markets, especially on MU. And now you can see 1 gap, 2 gaps, 3 gaps. We are fairly overextended here. Whenever we have 3 gaps, I'm fairly cautious. So as you can see here, we had that nice push up, gap and go, nice continuation. Yesterday, another gap and go continuation. Today's the 3rd day MU is going to gap up. So whenever we have 3 to 4 gap ups on the daily chart, this is basically a parabolic move here. Doesn't happen as often, right? Very rarely will we have 3 to 4 gap ups in a row, especially on a name that's this big, especially on something like MU. We're almost $1 billion market cap here now. So we do have to be a little bit more cautious for upside. If we're still looking to trade this right intraday, right, contracts are now a lot more expensive, right? With these gap ups, it's making intraday a little bit more tricky, right? If you've been positioned in a week ago, or if you had that nice break on Friday, or maybe even earlier into this week, right, you can just kind of sell as price pushes up in towards key levels. Right, I'm going to be fairly cautious. As I mentioned, 3 daily gap ups in a row. Now for MU, the key levels I'm personally going to have marked out is going to be our pre-market highs along with our after hours highs. And then we also have our previous day highs here. So coming into today, key levels that we have marked at 650 along with our pre-market highs. So if you do want to see continuation here, MU potential kind of reclaim setup for a pushback towards our pre-market highs, above our pre-market highs for continuation, or we could see this potential previous day high retest. That would even be nice as well, right off that 650 coming into market open here. So this is the scenarios that I have for MU coming into today. We're still bullish just based off the higher time frames. We're going to be a little bit more cautious, as I mentioned, with 3 gap ups in a row. Right, we do have to be a little bit more cautious now after having such a big move. Similar thing with the rest of the tickers, right? SNDK, key levels that we have marked out. As you can see here, similar setup, right? 3 gap ups in a row. You can see another gap up yesterday, and then today we're going to have another gap up. SNDK closer to our 1500, which is actually crazy to talk about. But SNDK key levels that we're going to have marked out today is going to be that pre-market highs. So pre-market highs along with our previous day highs, which is our 1420. So if you do want to see continuation higher, bounce off our previous day highs or some sort of reclaim setup, opening range setup for a push up in towards our pre-market highs coming into market open. As I mentioned, right, we'll kind of talk about the parabolic short in a bit, but basically, whenever you have a parabolic short setup, not something we usually look for because it's a more of a mean reversion trade. It's about to set up fairly soon, not as of yet. But for SNDK, MU, these ones, as I mentioned, right, we'll kind of talk about it when the setup does come, but we'll kind of prepare for it in the next couple of days. As for Intel, this one, nice push towards the upside. Key levels that we're going to have marked out is going to be that pre-market highs along with our previous day highs. So nice pop in the after hours. Now you can see a little bit of rejection. We are about to come back down for that pre-market high. So let's keep an eye out on this one. Pre-market high, previous day high retest coming to market open 110. If you can see buyers step in here, this is a good low risk opportunity to trade this back towards the upside. Only way I'm short any of these tickers underneath previous day highs at a minimum. So if you do want to see shorts, would have to be underneath our previous day highs for a continuation towards the downside. Right, MU, similar thing, right? Not that interested in shorts until we can get underneath that previous day highs, because anything above our previous day highs, markets can very much well bounce and continue back towards the upside. So, right, you don't want to be too early on the shorts now, right? If you're trying to short, right, let's say MU, SNDK, right, shorting before definitely was not a good idea just because higher lows are still being built. Now, after 3 gap ups in a row, you could potentially be interested. Maybe have a couple feeler positions or maybe some starter positions, maybe for 1 to 2 weeks out. You could be interested for some downside, or maybe even, let's say you have comments, right? Even a good idea to, right, protect some of your upside, right? Maybe on Intel, MU, SNDK. Right, if you have some long term, right, maybe you can get some maybe buy some covered calls, or sorry, sell some covered calls. You can maybe buy some puts. You can do something to just protect some of the upside, just because Intel, MU, SNDK, these ones already had such big moves in the markets. You can either take profits, or if you want to keep them long term, right, you definitely want to protect some of your upside here with the markets rallying this high. So for MU, all these ones, right, previous day highs is going to be key coming to market open. Intel, keep an eye on that previous day high retest coming to market open. WDC, another one that pushed nicely towards the upside here. Key level is going to be that previous day highs. If you do want to see some upside above your previous day highs for continuation higher. For the rest of the names, TSM would have to get above 404. Really, the main names are just MU, SNDK, and Intel. Biggest moves in the markets, plus, of course, AMD, which is currently pulling back just a little bit, seems like, with the Qs here as well. But at least for today, the game plan is just going to be continue to look for longs above our previous day highs in the overall markets. But we are going to be a little bit more cautious today, as I mentioned, with the markets gapping up. And of course, with this big gap up, it's going to be a little bit more tricky. Even if we do want to go long today with this huge gap up, it's going to be a little bit more tricky on the semis. As for a CRWV, a couple of names that look good for continuation. We have a couple more earnings happening tomorrow, right? CRWV, Iron, right? A lot of these ones are starting to break out here. So CRWV looks fairly solid on the higher time frames, breaking above key levels here as well. So this one looks fairly solid. We'll see what happens, of course, with earnings coming up on this ticker. But this one's breaking out. A couple other names, some themes that have been hit, right? The Trump theme, MP looks like a potential can break out fairly soon here. A couple other ones. Iron, of course, does have earnings coming up. This one's been fairly nice the past couple sessions. You just want to mark out your key levels in this case, which would be our previous day highs in essentially the area that we broke out from. So coming into market open here today, I'm going to quickly go over my game plan once more, and then I'm going to get ready for market open. As I mentioned, we are well above our previous day highs. We're going to have to use this pre-market high, this pre-market low and this after hours highs as a reference. So today, we're just going to be a little bit more patient. We're going to see the reaction within the first 5 to 15 minutes. If we can bounce or if buyers step in aggressively, we can look to take this back up and towards our pre-market highs here on the Qs. If the first 5-minute candle and that 15-minute is just indecisive, we're going to be a little bit more patient. Let's say we have fairly indecisive first 5-minute candle. We're going to be a little bit more patient here in the market. Similar thing here on SPY. Right, SPY's right back down in towards this order block. Let's just draw this out. Key level is going to be this 728. If we can see some buyers step in aggressively right off the bat, we can see this push back up and towards our pre-market highs. If that first 5 minutes, as I mentioned, is indecisive, we're going to be a little bit more patient. Can we be looking for shorts today? Yeah, shorts are in play, but I'm going to be a little bit more patient on the shorts as well, unless we get a clear break underneath that 5-minute range low. Main takers today, right, with the SMH continue to push towards the upside. What we're going to keep an eye out on is NVIDIA. NVIDIA has been lagging behind quite a bit. Let's keep an eye out on NVIDIA above our previous day highs, also potentially above our 20250 on the higher time frames. AMD, we're going to be a little bit more patient on within the first 15 minutes just because it had earnings to yesterday. IV is going to be elevated. Even if AMD has a good technical setup and buyers step in right off the bat, we might have to be hands off on it just because the contracts might be pretty elevated, especially with the IV. So we need to see some sort of IV flush if we're going to trade AMD. But key level here is going to be your 410 coming to market open. Some other names that look solid. Google, we'll keep an eye on Google above our previous day highs. This one continuation towards the upside here. Amazon potentially above our previous day highs as well, along with this flat top above our 276 for continuation. Other names that look solid for continuation, right? MU and the rest of the names, we'll keep an eye out on our previous day highs. If you can get that pullback coming to market open, potential low risk opportunity here off that previous day highs. SNDK, similar thing. Best opportunity here, lowest risk is going to be off our previous day highs. Intel, similar thing. Previous day high retest coming to market open. We want to see some buyers step in aggressively, right? Very low risk after having this nice push up in the after hours. Now it's going to come back down. Let's see if buyers can step in here off that 110. If let's say, for example, we have a break underneath within the first 5 minutes, let's say we have a big drop underneath that previous day highs, then not going to be interested in longs, right? As for shorts, might even hold off on the shorts as well. But if buyers can step in, let's say we push towards the downside right off the bat, and let's say we can get aggressive buyers stepping in here off that previous day highs, then really this scenario would be looking like this, right? Very low risk right off that previous day high level, right? Room all the way back up and towards our pre-market highs. Risk would be underneath this 110. Risk to reward here looks pretty good back towards the upside. So that's what we're going to be looking for coming into market open. With this gap up, right, a lot of the times you're going to be fairly aggressive, especially with this gap up, because you'll look at the markets, right? You'll look maybe on Twitter, right? You'll look at AMD earnings in the after hours, right? You're going to be super aggressive right off the bat, right? This is the time to be a lot more patient, right? The move basically already happened on a lot of the semiconductors, especially with AMD gapping up here as well. So can we still have continuation? Yeah, we can still have continuation, but definitely be a lot more patient. Don't oversize, especially now with a couple gap ups in a row. The move already happened, so be very selective. We have our previous day highs as key coming to market open, so we'll wait for the buyers if they do want to step in off that level. We can potentially look to trade this back towards the upside. But yeah, that's going to be it for me today. Hopefully you guys did enjoy that. If you did, appreciate if you guys drop a like and sub. And I will see you guys all tomorrow. All right, take care, everyone. Peace.